Hey everybody, I'm JJ. You're watching Reality Survival, and today we're going to talk about some gray man tips. And before I get going, I want to mention that Patera over at Appalachia's Homestead, she did a video talking about gray man just the other day, and I thought it was a really, really good video. And her basic point in that video is we don't always, or we shouldn't always just be gray men. We should stand up and, push back against the system when we see things changing that we're not okay with. And I want to say right away that I agree with her sentiment and her point on that. And that is why I'm a member of my town's, a member on a couple of different boards in my town. I'm trying to do what I can to make sure that, justice prevails and things. And so you have to get up and get involved. It does. Just when we talk about gray man procedures, it doesn't mean go through life being a gray man. Okay, the gray man concept is a tactic and a technique that was developed for usually military operators or assets of military operators or other three-letter agencies operating in environments where they were generally going to receive some sort of scrutiny. And so there are multiple techniques that come up in doing that. And so as I go through this video, I'm going to make the differentiation between an extreme rule of law situation where you might have a military occupation, maybe it's a foreign invasion and you've been caught behind enemy lines and you're somewhere where there is an extreme presence that is causing you to have to do what they say. Then you've also got another situation that we often talk about, which is a without rule of law situation. And there might not be any kind of security, and you might have to do your own security and be responsible for that and all that. So as I go through these 9 different things, I'm gonna kind of differentiate between both of them. So this video might be a little bit longer video, but I think it's important to flesh that out because the gray man techniques are not just one size fits all. It's whatever you need to do to allow you to complete your objective, right? So the thing that allows you to complete your objective might be completely different in one situation than it is in another, and it's not always just blending in. So that's kind of what we're going to talk about. So we'll start with the blending. In an extreme rule of law situation or environment, you might want to dress in a way that doesn't draw attention to you. Generally, that's going to mean neutral colors, no large logos, no flashy accessories. You want to kind of mimic local styles to avoid standing out. So this is, this tip here was generally made because Americans tend to wear graphic tees and things that kind of draw attention to themselves and their beliefs and all that kind of stuff. And so the recommendation was mostly for military folks. When you're overseas, you want to try to literally go to a local clothing store and buy some of the local clothing or whatever and wear those kinds of things. Now, you got to be careful about that because if it's a traditional garb, that can get you, in trouble in some places because you might look like a spy or whatever. But, we're talking about just more modern clothing or whatever, not necessarily traditional stuff. Now, in a without rule of law situation, it could also mean that you need to get all geared out, kitted up, and basically look like you are trying to deter anyone from messing with you. Let's say, because looking like a normal Joe with in nondescript clothing, kind of just putting your head down, going through life, not really paying attention to anything or whatever the case may be, in a without rule of law situation, that might very well make you a target where somebody is going to assume that you can't defend yourself and they might try to target you. So it might be necessary in a situation to actually look like you're ready to defend yourself, you're well organized, you're well equipped, and you're ready for a fight. And so, let's say if you were going on a convoy mission from one place to another because you had to go get somebody who was injured or something along those lines, you might want to roll, stacked heavy, like you're ready to fight. it really just depends on what the situation is. So you have to kind of use some common sense and all that kind of stuff and think to yourself, what is the thing that's going to allow me to get there and get back with the least amount of interference? Maybe it is being clandestine. Maybe it is being low-key. It's hard to say. It just depends on the situation. So number 2 is keep a low profile. So in an extreme rule of law situation, you might want to avoid unnecessary social interactions. You might not want to initiate conversations with strangers. And if someone engages with you, just kind of remain polite but non-committal. And that is also one of those things where it all kind of just depends. If you're stuck in an area that's being, heavily monitored, then you don't want to isolate yourself from the group and be the person that stands out that nobody knows or talks to. You want to interact with them enough so that they know who you are and that you're not a threat and that kind of thing, but you might not want to just give a whole lot of details. But in a without rule of law situation, it might be better off for you to try to maintain and form very tight bonds with the people who are around you, especially your neighbors and friends, so that if somebody comes to attack you or your house or try to take your stuff or whatever the case may be, you will have that relationship with your neighbors so that they may be able to help you out as well. So again, it all really just depends. So, just things to think about. Number 3 here is limit noise. So this could apply in both an extreme rule of law situation or a without rule of law situation. You likely are going to want to minimize the amount of noise that you make. This may include, working projects like generator noise, building projects, tools, equipment, saws, other machinery. And you also, if the internet is still up and running and that kind of thing, you also, this is something just kind of to apply in everyday life. You might want to consider digital noise. What are you putting on social media? Where are you using credit cards? Even in a without rule of law situation, what's your digital signal, like as far as radio signals go? What does that look like? And, is that putting out any kind of, alerting anybody to your presence and those kind of things? Okay, now the limit noise thing, I just want to mention here, that doesn't mean that you can't do things. You can't use your generator or you can't work on a project that you need to do. It just means that you need to be able to ready to defend yourself and understand that making noise can potentially attract people, right? You don't ever need to hide or forsake, the doing things that need to be done out of fear of making noise. You just have to understand the consequences of what that noise making is and then weigh whether or not it's worth it or not, right? So take that into consideration. Number 4 is movement patterns. In a without rule of law situation, you don't want to follow the same routes every day. You want to vary your time, your routes, make sure that you're not easily predicted or easily followed. And this is just a good idea in general in normal everyday life as well. However, in an extreme rule of law situation where you have a lot of physical, security and scrutiny and that kind of thing, having a predictable routine can offer you the ability to use that routine to provide you cover with some other sort of surreptitious activity. Let's say if you were trying to get a message from one person to another person, if the security element that's in your area always sees you take a certain path or a certain route and they know to expect you at a certain time of day and all that, after a while they'll develop the kind of normalcy bias, kind of like, oh, that's just Bob. He's doing his thing, and he's done that every day. I've searched him 6 times and I've never found anything, and he's just doing whatever he does, right? You're just your normal routine. Now, once that happens enough times and you start to notice that that the guards are not paying you as much attention and all those kind of things, now you have some freedom to be able to operate. Maybe you can carry a message with you. Maybe you can, go to get in contact with somebody or something like that at a later portion in your route or whatever the case may be. So sometimes establishing routines can be useful. It really all just depends. Okay. Number 5 is avoid confrontations. So you always want to aim to de-escalate conflicts. It's crucial to remain unnoticed and uninvolved in potentially dangerous situations. This would generally apply in both situations unless you're moving through an area in a without rule of law situation where you want to appear as a hard target. So, for the most part, if you can de-escalate, always de-escalate. I have a video talking about de-escalation procedures. You guys can check that out if you'd like. Number 6 is be aware. Always observe your surroundings. Situational is key to anticipate potential threats and avoid them. And this is going to apply equally on both sides. Just because you're dressing in a nondescript manner doesn't necessarily mean that you have to have your head down not paying attention. Criminals, especially criminals in like an urban without rule of law situation or whatever, are very good at picking out the people who will not, who are not going to fight back. And so having your head on a swivel, having your head up, moving around, looking at what's going on around you, making eye contact with people, acknowledging their presence and all those kind of things, those are all good things that you want to do no matter what your situation is. Okay. Number 7, practice good security. Be vigilant about your personal and your digital security. Keep your belongings secure and be cautious with sharing information with people. All right, that applies to both. Obviously, if they're in your circle of trust, then that is somebody who you can and should trust. But anybody outside of that, you want to be very wary about. Number 8 is maintaining physical fitness. Staying fit helps you move quickly and efficiently whenever necessary. It also allows you to blend in with the crowd more easily if you're not extremely overweight or extremely underweight. An average weight, an average size person is harder to describe than somebody who's 200 pounds overweight. And they're also, an average person is going to be in better shape and probably easier or a little harder to catch than somebody who's a couple hundred pounds overweight or extremely small. Number 9 is maybe the most important of the whole list, and that is emotional control. Learn to control your emotional reactions. A gray man doesn't want to show fear, excitement, or anger that could draw attention or signal vulnerability. You want to strive for being even keel. That's what you're looking for. You want to be calm, cool, and collected the whole time, regardless of what's happening. So anyway, those are my tips for gray man activities in either an extreme rule of law situation or a without rule of law situation. And again, these things, this is a spectrum, right? This is a spectrum of different kinds of environments, so there could be an in-between for all of them. But I would love to hear what you guys think is important tips for people to consider in both of these environments down in the comments below. Thank you for watching, guys. If you're interested in this kind of content, then I would encourage you to go over to realitysurvival.substack.com and get signed up over there as a paid subscriber. I just kind of did some changes on my review table here and all that kind of stuff. I'm going to start uploading my some gun content over on Substack. We also do monthly monthly giveaways for the paid subscribers over on realitysurvival.substack.com as well. So anyhow, if you guys think you might be interested in that stuff, then I would love to see you over there. So thanks for watching, and don't forget to live the 6 Ps. Proper prior preparation prevents poor performance. Stay safe, guys.